Banner, the team and I need you back on the pod. Please come back.
You aren't a podcast. You're a bunch of drunks pretending to be radio jockeys for movies. Heard by nobody because you're idiots.
God, see, that's genius. See, that's why we need you on the podcast. Welcome in to the Bro Force Squad podcast, where we're just a bunch of bros drinking beer and talking TV and movies. This is our review of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7, Episode 7, titled The Totally Excellent Adventures of Mac and the D. I am your host, the Mayor Jeff Hornacek. Joining me, as always, is the mad scientist Brian Banner, here to review this as we do all of our TV episodes on the 4 Bro Force Squad criteria, which is the acting, the story, our favorite scene, and then any theories or questions going forward. So, Banner, as we get into the acting, this was very different from not only any episode this season, but I would say 95% of the episodes in the history of the series of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we got very different performances, and how did they work for you?
I feel like this has been a running theme this entire season. I'm coming around on Deke. They've been writing him the same all season, so that really, really helps him. And like this, he actually got to show like why he cares and that he cares, and shows his commitment in this episode of how dedicated he is to Mac and the S.H.I.E.L.D. team and S.H.I.E.L.D. as a whole organization, which I thought I liked it. It really worked for me because it wasn't all of a sudden he was this, straight-laced, perfect agent. I mean, he hired a fucking coke dealer, for God's sakes, to be an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., which just, it works with what they've done with him as a babbling, bumbling idiot.
Yeah, I think the only real complaint we've had about Deke is his inconsistency as a character. And now that they've, I think, kind of found the way they want to go with him and honed in on it, it reluctantly has worked for me this season.
Yeah.
Let's just say this about Jeffrey Ward. I think that was actually him singing Don't You Forget About Me. He has some pipes.
He's got some pipes if it was him.
I think it
and
was.
Like, he was a great showman in that too. You could tell they said, look, go up there and just sing it. And he said, I got you. Hold my beer.
Yeah, I don't think you can act ridiculous enough on stage.
Yeah.
How'd you like James Harden, a.k.a. Mac, or Henry Simmons in this episode?
I said it last episode. The emotional stuff does not work. I just don't buy the emotional expression that he's given off. Like, I didn't feel like he was depressed. I thought he was just like, I don't know, being a moron. I didn't buy that he was really upset.
He had a tough arc in this because he has a really big emotional anchor in losing his parents. But this episode steered completely into the 80s camp, like self-awareness, meta jokes. And it's tough to have those in the exact same episode. I mean, to try and tug on our heartstrings and then also let us know that, like, hey, this whole episode is basically like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, making fun of 80s campy action movies. So he did have his work cut out for him there. I don't know which I thought he performed better at, but I always enjoy the comedic stuff with Mac because he's so buttoned up all the time that it's like such a fun change of pace with him.
I didn't buy a lot of the stuff until he committed back to being a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and accepting kind of Deke Squad team. Everything prior to that, I was just kind of, it almost looked like he didn't know what he was doing at times.
Last thing I'll say, the Deke Squad, the guys who played the Changs, they were pretty bad.
Yeah,
and most of his team, I understand, like, they're being written this way, but they were just, like, so absurd, dude. Even for, like, comedic beats, it felt like dodgeball. Like, it felt like the Globo Gym Purple Cobras.
I will say, I think this is probably one of the weaker episodes of the season, especially going off of cast. But we had barely anything of any of our main big players. So it would make sense that category is going to hurt this episode.
Yeah. All right, you got anything else? Or do we move on to story?
No, I think we hit everything on cast that I had.
So the story, the plot synopsis, according to the TV Time app, says after being unexpectedly stranded in 1982, Mac retreats to his childhood home to process the death of his parents. While Deke gets to work scouting a chart-topping group of new agents with no idea if or when the team is coming back for them, time seems to finally be on their side until the killer robots show up. So one thing I wanted to write down, I wrote down, this was like this season's Fear and Loathing in Planet Kitson. But for some reason, I still liked this episode, but I loved the Planet Kitson episode. I think the thing that was so tough with this is, again, as we said, they tried to couple it with that big emotional beat with Mac. And I didn't know which way I was trying to commit as an audience member. Should I be laughing the whole time, or should I actually be feeling Mac's grief? Because those felt odd, sort of sandwiched together in this.
I agree. I think this episode would have been better if they had a little less of the emotional beats, or it was a little bit more subtle, as opposed to in your face for half the episode. I think it would have been a better episode if they kind of Mac was involved with the Deke Squad a little bit more, and you can kind of see them struggling to him trying to teach them to be agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then the base gets infiltrated. But, I mean, it was harmless. It was fine, the episode. I didn't hate a lot of it. The guy that rebuilt Sybil and built the robots, creepy as hell.
Yeah.
He gave me the heebie-jeebies. I don't know what it was about him, but the way he fell in love with her was not awesome.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of good ideas in this that just the constraints of an hour-long show didn't get to be fleshed out. Like, dude, you could do a really creepy episode where just that guy and Sybil are the villains, and we could almost skip. I mean, it was my favorite part of the episode, so I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but where we could skip the base infiltration, and that'd be like a 1-hour photo with Robin Williams, like really fucking scary also.
Yeah, I think that this had the makings of an hour and a half mid-season finale written all over it. But again, because of the constraints of production and how many episodes they got, you just can't explain everything.
And I do think we spent, like you said, a little bit too much time building up Max's grieving process, because I would have liked to see more of him sort of struggling with like the plan that Deke is trying to put into place to get S.H.I.E.L.D. back together. And I think it takes like probably 40% of the episode for him to actually show up at Swayze's bar, which, by the way, Swayze's is the name for an 80s bar. I mean, would we not have spent every single Friday night there if we were alive in the 80s?
Yeah, they would have all of the monies.
I would just have a running tab. It would half my paycheck.
Basically, I just would tell my work, just give my paycheck to Swayze's.
Yeah, let's just.
That's where I'm spending it all.
Just do direct deposit to the bar. It's just easier. We're taking out the middleman. Anything else you had before we go to best scene?
One last thing I had. I didn't talk about it during cast because I felt like it fit the story better in store. But Coulson being the robot TV, very similar to Zola. That was kind of a cool little parallel because you've got Coulson now. This is again another iteration of Coulson, which again I didn't hate him kind of making those jokes like I kind of feel out of the group, blah blah blah.
Right.
Was neat to see, but also you can see it kind of reinforced why Zola could survive for all those years within a computer.
Once they pulled out the TV, I started thinking the same thing, and I was wondering if they were going to even structure it like Zola in Winter Soldier, where he's just like a green screen. I'm glad we actually got Coulson with like the weird like original Tron background.
Yeah.
Or it looked like when you go to J.C. Penney to get like your yearbook photos, and it's like one of the backgrounds.
Jinko jeans and yearbook photos.
Yeah. Okay, on to best scene. So first off, I think we have to say, if you have not seen or heard of the movie Chopping Mall, we've done a movie commentary on it as a podcast. I'll link it in the description. Banner hates the movie, but it's about killer robots who are set up to work security at a mall, and they end up going crazy and killing people in the mall. And this movie was directly inspired by that, I think, because the Chronocoms look exactly like them.
They look identical, close enough to where if I had the rights to Chopping Mall, I would be like, y'all owe me some money because Those are my robots.
And Chopping Mall was a early to mid 80s film and very campy, which this episode steered directly in. So this was almost just like a straight up homage to that film, I thought.
Yeah.
So as far as best scenes go, the main thing I wrote down was that thing with the robots invading the lighthouse basically at the end. It was full camp at that point. The episode had completely committed to being tongue-in-cheek, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and it was like a laugh a minute for me. I mean, I was having an absolute blast with it. The one-liners were ridiculous and
they
so
were coming
stupid.
from every which way too.
But when Max starts suiting up in like his gear, I was cracking up. Like
when he put that bandana on his head and it just looked, it looked so bad. I was just like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And the fucking shotgun X, god damn it.
I mean, whether you like it or not, that thing is a main part of this show.
It's not awesome, that's for sure.
And then the last thing I had before I'll turn it over to you, that opening scene in the episode where Mac and Deke were in the field right after the Zephyr had zapped away. Did you think
when we realized Mac doesn't know how to drive a motorcycle? He almost crashed it like 3 times.
He did peel out pretty bad. But granted, he was in the dirt, is what I'll give. That's my excuse for him. Okay. But did you think that was a subtle shot at Endgame when Mac was like, this is why you don't do time travel. It never works out.
Yeah, I feel like it could be, or it could be foreshadowing like, hey, Endgame did work, so watch us connect back to that. Like,
Ooh.
We're going to make it all work.
Interesting take.
I don't know. Mine is actually the last scene when May and Yo-Yo show back up at the lighthouse, and Mac and Yo-Yo, you could tell, okay, hey, their thing is back together. They're solid. For the first time in a long time, I bought them as a couple in that scene. I thought that Mac, for the first time in the episode, did good with emotional stuff. It wasn't sad emotion, it was happy emotion, but nonetheless, he did good at it. And Yo-Yo didn't fuck it up. So I think that was probably the best scene. And then obviously May interrogating Deke to figure out what happened.
I have some questions about that scene if you're ready to move on to theories and questions.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I guess right off the bat, how were May and Yo-Yo able to just instantly go back to that time? And then what do you think it was that Gemma said to them? Was she like, you have 24 days or something till we meet up again?
So you have 27 days before, like, I don't know, before they jump again, maybe? I don't know. Like, they are somehow going to be in 1983 for 27 days. So I don't know if that means that they have 27 days to rebuild S.H.I.E.L.D., maybe? I didn't quite understand that. That was one of my questions, too.
But somehow
they have 27 days to do.
It took them, I guess, like a year and a half to figure out how to directly jump to where Deke and Mac were, right?
Yeah, or either that or it was just that was how long that particular jump was, where somehow Fitz knows that they were left there, and so the quickest he could get them to jump was 20 months later. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm grasping at straws.
I'm hoping they'll explain that more coming up. I don't need a lot, even just like one sentence giving it to me, because I enjoyed the time with Deke and Mac in the 80s.
Right.
But I guess my first question, and again, we don't watch the next week on. Trend Pimp knows this. I don't know if he does either. Do you think that we are going to stay in the 80s much more next episode, or are we going to get the team and basically back on the Zephyr altogether?
I think we're going to have the entire team in the 80s. I think we're going to get like a super sexy leathered Chloe Bennett in the next episode, like punk grunge outfit.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Excuse me. Give me 30 seconds.
So you made the sale quit selling.
Yeah. I think we're going to get the whole team in the 80s. Obviously, we have that big cliffhanger with Whitehall. Or not Whitehall. I'm
Malik.
sorry. Nathaniel Malik. Yeah, we've got that whole thing with him. So they're going to have to defeat him and somehow get that mini, like light beer Tesseract that they're carrying around.
Mm-hmm.
So do they have 27 days to get that thing? And maybe they have to have that thing in order to jump?
That could be it.
I don't know. I'm very, very, very confused by a lot of that.
Let me get one more of these out because it's a theory that ties into a question, and then I'll turn it over to you. So, like in previous seasons where we've basically had, like, the midway point has sort of signaled the end of one threat and pivoted into the next one, I think that's basically where we're at now. I think the Chronocoms are, for all intents and purposes, now not the main foil to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and we've sort of shifted into Malik, which again, I don't think is a ballsy theory. I think they're pretty much telling us that. But I have a two-tiered question here. Number one, I'm still not 100% sure. The Malik that we see here, because I know they were brothers, is he is not Gideon Malik, who ends up being on the World Security Council, right? He's his brother? Or is that the same guy, like that Powers Booth played in the Hive season?
Correct. I think it's a different. I think it's a different guy. I think this is a brother that would not have been born if time had not been altered.
Got it.
So
Okay.
time was altered, which gave him the ability to have gave Malik an ability to have another child, which is now Nathaniel Malik,
Okay,
who is now the bad guy.
But Gideon is still a thing, right? Didn't they meet him in the bar?
I think Gideon is still a thing. He's just off doing, Hydra Shield stuff, where I think Nathaniel Malik is more doing his own thing. Whitehall's thing, yeah. Kind of like how Hydra was like a secret cell within the Nazis. He's like a secret cell within Hydra.
A cell within a cell.
Right. Yeah, a multi-dimensional cell.
It's basic stuff. And then my other question is, do you think, obviously Malik survived his run-in with Daisy and Sousa when he tried to extract Daisy/Quake's powers? Yep. Do you think he still has any of those powers, or did he maybe even find like another Inhuman in the interim and take their powers? Or is this going to be a Malik that needs whatever the Chronocoms gave him to basically be a threat?
I have no idea. I don't even know where to begin, because we didn't really even understand or know if that was, I mean, was that him that did the powers that brought the house down on his face?
Yeah. I'm like 99% sure. I think he will still have some powers. The mere fact that he survived, I think, meant that something in that DNA probably worked.
So what about this? What if we've got, remember how Daisy, she has to have those special things in her arms because when she quakes, she breaks her arm every time.
Yeah.
Right. What if Malik is getting to that point now where he realizes when he uses his power, it hurts him? And midway through the episode, he could be winning, and Daisy goes, he's not wearing anything, but he has my powers. This is how to beat him, because that's how I couldn't quake anymore because of that.
Right.
I mean, that used their knowledge of the power to defeat him, who is new to the power.
That could very well be it.
Or I have no idea.
Who knows what? At least I don't know what the thing was. Like you said, the light beer 0-calorie tesseract that the Chronocoms brought him. Is that related to his quest to find more Inhumans? Who knows? Is it like some sort of database that like has their location or their whereabouts? Or what was the name of the Inhuman place where they all lived?
Well, I think I think that blue box is like the thing that she puts in her hands, and then she can predict or see the future or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think that like stringy yo-yo thing is what is in the blue box.
Which would make sense based on Malik's goal. Anyway, there's a lot of speculation there and not a lot to like actually work off of. It was just something I immediately thought of when I saw that. All right, what do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think we pretty much touched on it. Everything is what exactly is that blue box and how is it going to progress the story forward. I'm with you. I think the Chronicons are still there, but they aren't the main villain. I think Malik is the main villain. And I think that this was a passing of the torch, kind of like you said, the mid-season finale where we've defeated one, now we have to defeat the other. Coulson essentially eliminated them in the last one. This was a bridge episode, and now we're going to actually start to see the fallout of them changing the timeline and what Baby Malik has been doing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we don't know like what dominoes he pushed over when the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. weren't around.
Oh yeah, we are getting very brief glimpses of what's going on, which is almost more fun.
And also, if they have to face him like with the team that they have, their sort of Bad News Bears version of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that could present some problems in and of itself.
Especially since Cricket died.
Yeah, he was like the heart and soul of that team, you know? So they're basically would be going in with like a double A squad, even with Yo-Yo and May.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, the Mighty Ducks won.
That's true, but they had Gordon Bombay. I mean,
That's true.
and his slicked back hair in the second one. I don't see that guy walking through the door to help the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
You never know. What if Emilio Estevez did show up?
Make perfect sense. It's a
Yeah.
connected universe. Actually,
Yeah.
At this point, he's the Minnesota Miracle Man, right? In the mid '80s, he's playing the
Yeah.
Pee Wee hockey.
He's playing Pee Wee hockey.
Or has he hurt his? Never mind.
No.
It's a rabbit hole we can't go.
Yeah. Why? We need to stop now.
Separate podcast. Check out our Mighty Ducks movie commentaries. All right, what else you got?
That's all I've got, man.
All right, I have one question that I want to close with because this really got the wheels turning for me. So, Deke and Mac have really not had much interaction in the entire series prior to this episode.
Yeah.
And as far as a buddy cop, I use that trope or that term anytime like two people who have like very differing personalities are put in these comedic situations.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was pretty fun for an episode. So it got me thinking, what two characters that haven't had much interaction or maybe even have, do you think would be cool? I mean, we won't get it because the show doesn't have much time left, but would be cool to either get like a standalone episode with or a one-off episode, or even like if Brian Banner had a magic wand, you could give them like a season of their own show. Or two characters in Agents
I
of
think it
S.H.I.E.L.D.
would be really cool to have Deke again and Sosa, because they were both pulled from their timelines. One, the past, which is very, conservative and straight-laced, and they don't understand technology and computers are a new thing. And then you have Deke, who is like, oh yeah, this anti-gravity belt that I have, no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Having them interact together, I don't think it would work as an episode, but it would definitely work as a season of a show or like a spin-off show.
That's a good one. One that I thought of was Enoch and May. They had that brief interaction on the Zephyr. Granted, that May was not like she was fucked up in the head.
Yeah, that's not the May that we know.
But Enoch's deadpan dry humor and May's just like fucking move so I can kick the shit out of these guys, I think would be hilarious as like an 8-episode mini arc or like mini season of something.
Enoch and Daisy would be good too. Enoch would be good with anybody.
I was going to say, you could pair Enoch with a lot of people. And then another one I wrote down just because every time they've been together this season I've wanted more is Daisy and Sousa.
Oh yeah, they're my only hesitation with that is if you gave them their own season together, it would be better than Agent Carter, and I don't think you can do that.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's what it would be as a modern version Agent Carter, and you can't shit on your previous show because you came up with a better idea.
Also, just the idea, and I know this has basically been what we've had in some iteration for like the last 2.5 seasons since Coulson has kind of bit the dust. But any show where Coulson is like the Charlie to Charlie's Angels, where he's just like on a monitor, he's like, you can just loop him in that way with his comedic sensibility. That's just a cool device that I think the show has had a lot of fun with. Like, how do we get Coulson into this episode knowing he's not alive? The writers like kind of paint themselves in a corner, and it brings out the best in them. So anything that can involve that.
I think they've done a good job, especially this season. Is Coulson is not the main character by any means, and he's probably, he's a background character at this point. He's just kind of there when it's convenient for them to have him, is what he's turned into the last few episodes.
And they use him sparingly sometimes to where it's like a real treat when he shows up. Like when he showed up this episode, I was like, oh, hell yeah, Coulson's in this.
Yeah.
And you kind of forget that like he was the vehicle for 4 or 5 seasons that this show ran on.
Right. I mean, if it wasn't for his popularity in the movies, we wouldn't even have this show.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Anything you want to leave the people with for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7, Episode 7?
No. I'm excited to see where we go. We're on the back 9 now, guys.
Of the whole show.
Of the whole show. Yeah. Not even just the season. Like, this is it.
Man. That's kind of crazy to think about. All right, for the mad scientist, Brian Banner, I'm the mayor, Jeff Hornacek, and we are the Bro 4 Squad podcast. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all of our reviews on letterboxd.com. If you just type in Bro Force Squad as 3 separate words on all those places, and check out all of our content on our website, bro4squad.com. Till next time, Brian and I got to get to Swayze's for happy hour.
It doesn't matter. There is no amount of money that will ever make me a fan of the shotgun axe.
Well, I think you're just in the wrong side of history. Proven. What was the flyer Deke handed out? Like, what was this?
It was like Deke Squad. I don't know.
When he passed it out, I was like, there's some insane. It was like 2 for 1 or something. Like
Yeah.
whiskey shots or something. I was like, how do you pass that out?